What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Stand Philly Sports History for March 5th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Tuesday edition of the podcast. Yes, it's Tuesday. We'll get more into that in a minute. But the huge story yesterday was Jason Kelce announcing his retirement. So I do apologize if we go a little bit out of order, but I do think that we'll take a precedent over what we had planned for today. But that's okay. And I mean, watching his speech again, of course he crushed the retirement speech. Why wouldn't he? I mean, that's just basically who he is. And I thought a lot, and I put some notes down, and not sure how much I'm going to follow him because I could talk about the stats, the Pro Bowls, the All-Pro, the consecutive starts, the second most games started in Eagles history. I could talk about the speech. And obviously just the passion and just how much that meant, especially being there when it was going on. But I think I want to talk more about his off-the-field stuff and just what he symbolizes and represents, because I did find myself getting emotional because of it, and not so much because he's retiring and he's my favorite player, this, that. No, I think it's because he first of all, he gets it. And he said as much, and just how much it meant to him at the Super Bowl parade, just interacting and how he knew how much it was. And really the fact that prior to that, we were hard on him and he wasn't necessarily performing the way he was. And he said he got it. And I mean, he went out, worked harder, and came back and obviously went and won us the Super Bowl, where a lot of guys, and I'm not going to mention names, but will go on podcast or speaking to the media and other people and say how tough it is and how they're not fair, the fans, and this and that. And it's I don't think it's that we're unfair or harder. It's just we have high expectations, and that's saying something for a fan base whose teams were not that good for so long, and how many bad teams and bad eras and bad players we've had to suffer through. But we have high expectations, and we just want you to give effort, because truthfully, just play hard. And life is tough, and for us, sports is an escape. And to me, just thinking back like on that Super Bowl and what that Super Bowl meant, and obviously Jason was a huge part of that, but just brought you back to when you were a kid. He talked about your brother and just growing up. And like, to me, the Eagles represented, like, it reminds me of my grandparents, and just taught, like, is this year going to be the year? And knowing that it's going to end in disappointment, but year after year after year. And I think Jason gets that. And I think he embodies what we all want our athletes to be. He had that passion that we have about our teams. He played hard every game. He took losses hard. I mean, you saw what he did after the season when he followed the Chiefs around. Like, that's the kind of dumb stuff we do. But, like, I think he gets it. And, I mean, that's kind of aside. But I think it's more the passion and the fact that he embodies what we want our athletes to be and how much we want them to care and how passionate and how they're into it. And if there are guys that get it, Brian Dawkins was one. I think to a certain extent, even though he got a bad rep from the media, Mike Schmidt, guys like that, like, they just get it. And I think, and if you look at all the stuff he does off the field, the charity work, going down to the shore to raise money, guest bartending and things like that, and just those are the things. And I didn't expect to tear up yesterday, but I teared up more for what he represents and that Super Bowl, and just how I wish that everybody that comes to play in this town gets that. I mean, I went back to when he had that press conference. I don't even know what spurred it. I think it may have been a mini camp or something, and he called out Ben Simmons. He's like, just put in the effort. Like, don't run and hide. Don't use this, that, or the other as an excuse. It's not the fans, it's you. Put in the hard work, and they'll love you. And I think that's the truth. And I think that is often the misguidedness of outsiders who think we're tough. They hear guys like Slay and Steven Nelson say, "Oh, they're bad for my no, they're not bad for your mental health. Your play was bad for your mental health. Own it." And when Jason was at his worst and we booed him, he owned it. And I mean, I talk about the story. I was tough on him back in his rookie year when I had a blog, and he called out people for wanting Andy Reid to fire. I called him a no-name 6th-round rookie. Glad to say I was wrong, and I mean, I will own that as long as I live. 100% wrong. I love Jason. I love everything he meant to this organization, but he owned it. He got past it, and he just continued to work hard year after year, game after game, and won us all over. Because I wasn't alone when with him and Evan Mathis. I was not the only one that was like, shut up and just play, because he was sticking up for his coach. Like, it's all about loyalty. Like, and he had that passion, and he shouted them, all of his coaches out. So I think a lot could be learned for many athletes. Like, that was, I heard somebody say it, and I forget where I read it, so I'm not going to take credit for this, but he gave a master's class yesterday on retirement speeches. So, and again, I apologize to whoever really said that. I forget. I don't want to take the credit for that. But, I mean, it was more emotional than what I expected myself to be. And I think, again, it wasn't for the stats. It wasn't for this. It wasn't for that. I think it was more of what he represented and just how much this team means to me, how much it means to us as a fan base. And to have an athlete get that emotional and that worked up about it, that's the passion he had his whole career. And I think what you see with him is what you get. I don't think there's a show. Too many times people are worried about their persona and what they come off and their brand, I guess. And not Jason. I mean, sure, he might be worried about that, but I think that is who he is. And I think you saw the real person yesterday and just the emotion of 13 years of going in, day out, and doing your job in a city that is tough. And we're tough for good reason, and I will stand by that. That's a hill I always will die on. But it's not because we're bad for your mental health. It's because we expect you to hold yourself to the same standards that we hold you to. Not expecting to be perfect. The story he told about Zach Ertz, I remember being at that game when Ertz did that, and just he did it. Guys like Alec Boehm, who, you know what, he owned it, and that's all we ask. Like, just own it. Don't put the blame on this, that, or the other. Yeah, it can be tough. Yeah, it's frustrating. People say things in the heat of the moment, but just own it. And that's what Jason did. So thank you, Jason. You were there 13 of the 23 years I've had season tickets, so that's a good chunk. We've been through a lot as you as a center, me as a fan. Never met you, but yeah, we've been through it. We've been through a lot, and I think that, to me, is where that emotion came from, because you could tell that he felt he'd been through it. As he was going back, I'm like, I remember that game. I remember that game. That was fun. That sucked. So, Jason, enjoy your retirement. Best of luck on whatever the next endeavor is. I know you're going to be fine. But just thank you for all you did for 13 years. Thank you for the Super Bowl. And just being a true, genuine person and truly getting us and being a mouthpiece for us and saying they're not bad. This is what they want from you. And I think that, to me, means almost as much as the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, absolutely, but almost. But yeah, you were responsible for the Super Bowl too. So thank you. All right, as I mentioned, it is Tuesday, so it is time for a little motivation and positivity, and there's only one way to go with this one, and he said it a couple times in the speech yesterday, and it was sort of the rallying cry of that team when they went on that Super Bowl run. He said it at this the Super Bowl parade speech, and that is, hungry dogs run faster. I think I found that it was credited originally to James Patterson, but it was a sign that Jeff Stoutland had hanging in his office. Hungry dogs run faster, and I think that's key. And I mean, it really is. Obviously, it's Jason Kelce made it big in Philly, but I think you can learn a lot from that. and never be satisfied. Never rest on your laurels, and never lose focus of what you started from. And I look at kind of where I am with certain things, and I mentioned having a block, and kind of was like, but never really lost the focus. And here I am. I mean, I don't know where this is going to go. I have my hopes, but at work, like if you get a promotion or you get a raise, don't settle for that. Keep pushing. Keep working hard to the next level. Working out, like if you hit a goal, keep going to the next goal. That and never lose focus. Always stay hungry. And I think it's the hungry people that make the difference in this world. So on the day after we're celebrating Jason Kelce's retirement, why not? Let's just hungry dogs run faster. It's true. Never lose focus. Stay hungry. One other thing, and I did mention, and this is huge Eagles news as well, from one legend to the other. Apparently, it seems as though they're interested in bringing Brandon Graham back. Brandon Graham is interested in coming back for one more year. Another guy who truly gets it and connects well with the fans. So I really hope they can get that done at the right price that's mutually beneficial for both. Hopefully something like that comes out today. But shout out Jason Kelce. Hungry dogs run faster. Never lose focus. Always stay hungry. All right, so let's start now with a recap of yesterday's question of the day. I asked you, what was the best name in Philly sports history? World Be Free ran away with it. 85%, I think it was, or 82 or 85% of you said it was World Be Free. Pickles Dillhofer, I still think is a great name, and I don't know. We did have somebody mention Dick Trickle, who had no connection at all whatsoever to Philadelphia, but I still think that is the GOAT of sports names, is Dick Trickle. All right. Thank you, as always, for participating in the question of the day. This went off the rails fast. As always, we will have another question of the day later in the show. Be sure to check out A League Apart. It's an exhibit at Camden County College on the legacy of the Negro Leagues in Philadelphia and the barrier breakers. I sat down with Brian Michael a couple weeks ago for an episode of Back to the Future. Be sure to check that out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. That's Back to the Future with a PH wherever you get your podcast. Stay tuned for a Phillies preview episode coming soon. Just like and subscribe. That's the best way to stay in the loop. But today's question of the day, in honor of Jason Kelce, and this was a hard list to compile. I had the first three, I think, came easily, and I was trying to find someone for the Sixers, but it was difficult, and I'll get into that in a minute. But which player who played his entire career in Philadelphia was the best? Was it Jason Kelce? Is it my all-time favorite, Mike Schmidt, Concrete Charlie, or Chuck Bednarik, or Bobby Clark? I was looking for someone on the Sixers, and there's a couple guys who we could do, like Hal Greer, but he played some of his time with the Syracuse Nationals before they moved, so it was the same franchise, different city. Billy Cunningham played 2 years in the ABA, so he wasn't able to be it. Who else was there? A lot of those guys. Paul Arizin played for the Warriors his entire career, but then I think he did. I don't remember if he went, but it was hard to find somebody for basketball. So these are the four I came up with. But Jason Kelce, Mike Schmidt, Chuck Bednarik, or Bobby Clark, who's the best player to play his entire career in Philadelphia? And if I did miss somebody, or you think one of those guys from the Warriors or the Sixers who played also with the Nats should be on there, let me know that. 267-495-8531. Get you in. Who's the best player to play his entire career in Philadelphia for the same team? Jason Kelce, Mike Schmidt, Chuck Bednarik, or Bobby Clark? Let me know. All right. Sticking with the Flyers, they lost in a shootout yesterday to the Blues, 2-1. They did get that point, so that's the important takeaway as we inch closer to the trade deadline for the Flyers. But at this point, you just want to get points and move on. So we'll take the point and see where we go. They're in Florida tomorrow. Another tough matchup for them. Sixers are in Brooklyn tonight to take on the Nets. Who knows what's going to happen, but they've been playing well, so hopefully the Sixers can continue that. The Sixers have been playing well, not the Nets. I can't believe stupid, but there was a boost on DraftKings, and it was 33% all sport parlay boost. So you had to have the odds under 500. So I'm like, looking, I'm like, all right, the Nets are like minus 425. I'm like, they're playing at home. They should win. Of course, the Nets were the ones that blew my big money parlay. So hopefully they go in there and run the Nets out of the building for that. Couple random things I wanted to cover. Our bubble watch for today. The latest bracketology has the Villanova Wildcats as one of the last 4 byes. So they're not comfortably. They're obviously still on the bubble, but they have a little bit more breathing room as they take on Seton Hall tomorrow, who is one of the last 4 in. So it's still a huge game. I think if Villanova wins that and then doesn't get bounced in the first round of the Big East tournament, they should be good. But we'll have an update on that. Temple's women are in action tomorrow too. We'll update that later. Paul Heyman. Yes, Paul Heyman from WWE, the special counsel to the tribal chief right now. Used to be the advocate for Brock Lesnar. He was announced that he was going to be inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame at WrestleMania weekend in a couple weeks here in Philadelphia. And I wanted to mention that only because, yes, it's entertainment, but he was a big instrumental part in ECW, which was headquartered basically out of Philly. They had the arena down there in West Philly. So shout out to Paul Heyman. Definitely some Philly ties there as well. The Union are in action tonight again, and I'll get it out, against Pachuca. Leg 1 of the round of 16 of the CONCACAF Champions Cup. The Philadelphia Sports Hall of Fame ballot is out. You don't get a chance to have your voice heard specifically and have impact on who gets in, but you can have your voice heard. I worded that wrong. So you don't get to have a final say, but you can have your voice heard. Go to phillyhall.org/fansvoice. The link is in the description. Yeah, the link is in the description. And if your ballot closest matches the official induction class, you will receive 2 free VIP tickets to the ceremony in November. Deadline to fill that out is Friday. Big Phillies news, and it was just a big news day for Philly sports yesterday, and this almost got overshadowed by the Kelce announcement. But Zack Wheeler did sign his 3-year, $126 million extension, and I think that's a great fit for both the team and Zack Wheeler. Zack Wheeler said he didn't want to be pitching when he's old. I think it gives him security. He'll probably finish out his career in Philadelphia. It gives the Phillies the stability at the top of their rotation. Hopefully they can help now bring along some of the young guys like Mick Abel and Andrew Painter. Ranger and Christopher Sanchez as well. But I think the length of this is what really is good for me. It's a 3-year deal. The money, it is what it is. I think as we go, it's not going to be that much because the contracts are just going to keep going and getting bigger and bigger. But it certainly puts the pressure on Zach and the Phillies. I think this, I like this, and only because you're coming into it, and I mentioned, and I don't want to get too much into it because I'll have the Phillies preview coming up, but you have this full team coming in. Everyone's happy, everything, and I'm going to knock on wood because I don't want to jinx it. But, all they have to focus on now is the World Series. And it's World Series or bust. So let's go. But, again, I like it. Yesterday in spring training action, Schwarber had 2 walks, and he hit leadoff. And I know a lot of people feel some type of way about that. But, look, man, he guaranteed to lead off the game 1 time per game. Sometimes, depending on how the lineup goes, it might be more, but I think it's not that big of a deal. If he's comfortable, I think over the years the lineup has been better with him lead off. Let's not play any games, Topper. Just keep Schwarber in the leadoff spot. Cody Clemens went 2 for 2. Bryce Harper went 1 for 3. Got his first hit of the spring. And the pitching staff is still looking pretty solid overall. which I think with the way the National League is stacked now, the pitching staff is going to be key. So if they can get this solid pitching from top to bottom, I'll take it. Speaking of the Phils, the Philly Goat is at it again. They have the Bring Back Dollar Dog Night shirts that just were released. They're pretty cool, so go check them out if you're a fan like myself of Dollar Dog Night. They have a couple different Kelce shirts on the site as well, so check them out if you want to show some love for Jason. Whatever you do, just check them out because they have everything you need. I wouldn't be surprised, and Ryan, if you're listening, I know you usually do, maybe some kind of Mummers Super Bowl parade canvas loafers. I don't know. But check out what they have going on over there. Great stuff. Use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. That's phillygoat.com. Promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off of your order. All right. Interesting one today. And going back to 2009. And on this day in 2009, the Harlen Globetrotters played at the Spectrum, kind of at the Spectrum, for the 73rd and final time. First time they played was in 1967 when the arena opened. The 72nd time was in 1997, right before I guess at the time it was the Coors State Center open, when they moved all the big events and everything over to the new building. What made this one unique for the last time was that it was not played inside the Spectrum. It was played on top of the Spectrum on the roof. Yes, the Globetrotters played the Washington Generals on top of the roof of the Spectrum on this day in the year 2009. It was originally supposed to be scheduled for March 3rd, but was rescheduled for March 5th, and it was part of the Spectrum's farewell tour. They were closing the building for good after the 2009 season. 35 media members joined the players on top. The game only lasted 19 minutes and 67 seconds in honor of the year the Spectrum opened. If you are keeping score at home, as I know many of you do, the Globetrotters did win this game 36-24. But ultimately, this was a publicity stunt for the March 8th games at the Wells Fargo Center, which now, or back then, I guess it was still the Coors State or Wachovia. I don't know. It's changed so many times. I still call it the FU Center, which it may have been the FU Center at the time. Who knows? But America's Showplace was home to the Flyers and the Sixers. Many NCAA tournament games, including Christian Laettner's shot against Kentucky, played host to 2 Final Fours. Many Big Five games there. The Atlantic 10 tournament was there. Too many concerts to name. Professional wrestling, boxing was officially demolished in 2010 to make room for Xfinity Live. But on this day in 2009, the Harlem Globetrotters played on top of the Spectrum for the final time in 2009 in a game that lasted 19 minutes, 67 seconds to commemorate the year the Spectrum opened. Don't hear that too often. All right, finally today, our Philly Sports Women's History Spotlight. We're going to take a look at Nikki Franke, who was a fencer. She was originally born in Brooklyn and was an All-American fencer at Brooklyn College. She took third in the NIWFA College Championships her senior year. She was on the 1976 and the 1980 Olympic teams for the United States. She was the U.S. Fencing Association national foil champion in 1975 and 1980. She also had a second place and 2/3 in that same tournament various years. She won 2 bronze team medals at the Pan Am Games. She actually has a silver and a bronze medal individually from the Pan Am Games. But her claim to fame and what she's probably most known for in this area is she was the fencing coach at Temple for 50 years. It is the longest tenured coach in Temple history for any sport. Even more amazing, out of 50 seasons, she had 48 of them as winning seasons for a grand total of 898. She won the NCAA championship in 1992. At one point, won 26 straight National Intercollegiate Women's Fencing Championships. She's produced 25 All-Americans. and probably even more near and dear to her heart. And I think this is the coolest part of it. She's one of the co-founders of the Black Women in Sport Foundation, which encourages Black girls to participate in all aspects of sports, including coaching and administration, not just playing. She is in, are you ready for all of these accolades now? She is in the International Sports Hall of Fame, the Temple Athletics Hall of Fame, the U.S. Fencing Association Hall of Fame, Brooklyn College Hall of Fame, the Philadelphia Sports Hall of Famer, and she is just one of the best people, man, woman, black, white, whatever. Just big heart, does so much for the community. Just a pillar of the Temple community, a pillar of the fencing community, and today's Philly Sports Women's History Spotlight. So shout out to you, Nikki Franke, All-American, Olympian, Pan Am game medalist, and Hall of Fame coach as a fencer, and a Hall of Fame fencer as a fencer. So shout out to you, Nikki Franke, today's Philly Sports Women's History Spotlight. On this day in 2009, the Harlen Globetrotters won 36-24 over the Washington Nationals on top, or is it the Nationals or not the Nationals, the Generals, Washington Generals, on a game played on top of the Philadelphia Spectrum before it was demolished. Good luck to the Union tonight. Remember, hungry dogs run faster. Don't lose your focus. Don't lose your hunger for whatever it is you're trying to achieve. And when you accomplish one goal, just keep going, as our man Jason Kelce says. So shout out to you, Jason. Thank you for a great career. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for just being a genuine person. And don't forget to let me know who's the best player, speaking of Jason, to play their entire career in Philadelphia. Is it Jason Kelce, Mike Schmidt, Chuck Bednarik, Bobby Clark, or somebody else that I missed? 267-495-8531. Get you in. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.